Connie Love here. This is Alexandria and my story, part 4. A lot's happened. We got to Phoenix, got to the hotel. It was like one of those budget hotels, not far from the airport. I think it was like Osborne Avenue. At that time, I wasn't familiar with Phoenix at all. So we got to the motel, and we're in the motel. We had reserved it for a week, and this was the 14th. By the 15th, we were severely targeted. They were moving around in the ceiling of the motel, and we were on the top floor. So the targeting was bad. By the 16th, we needed to go get groceries. Went and got a cab, went down to the lobby. Got a cab, went up to the grocery store. It was closed. And went in the grocery store, got our groceries out, came back out to the grocery store, got back in the cab, went back to the motel. Kind of lingered a little bit outside because you weren't allowed to smoke in the rooms. So I'm outside smoking in the room. The security guard, I guess, was not prepped for what was going on concerning our targeting. And he confronted a guy, a young black guy, that was in the lobby just hanging out with his cell phone. And the guy ran out of the hotel door right past us into the parking lot, and I heard him tell somebody, "I thought you said they weren't going to confront me. They weren't going to ask me any questions." I didn't hear anybody respond to his question that he asked. Only thing I know is that was the same voice that I heard in Ohio. His name is Martise. Yes, that was the same exact voice that I heard in Ohio. So we went through the hotel thing. 2 weeks later, was targeted every day severely. They were pouring gases and everything into that motel room. And 2 weeks later, we were out of money. Yeah, pretty much. And it was time for us to go to a shelter. We went to a shelter called Cass. It was 232, if I'm not mistaken, South 12th Avenue, Phoenix, Arizona. Trying to get a place to live. We had to go through the intake and the interview and everything, and we finally were able to get to a shelter, a women's shelter they were sending us to. We waited in a long line. And I am probing my memory that the same voice I said Martise, I heard him come through that line of women, and he asked them who wanted a job. And for some reason in my spirit, I knew that me and my daughter were almost in trouble. So we ended up going to the shelter, but they wouldn't keep us there. They were not prepared for a blind woman and a disabled child. I guess they figured they had to babysit. Well, they wouldn't have had to do that. They sent us back that night to another part of St. Vincent's de Paul, matter of fact. It was the shelter where you go when they put you a mat on the floor, you stay the night, you get up at 5:30 in the morning, and then you go back to Cass on their grounds, and you walk around all day long till it's time to go back in at 6:37 at night. We did that for the next 2 weeks. By then, they let us back in the women's shelter. We were targeted every day. In that one, we had the mat on the floor, and they were always throwing stuff on my head. And they were throwing stuff on my baby. We dealt with it for 2 weeks. And then we went back to see if there was a way we can get in a shelter with a bed. So we ended up going to walk-in shelter for women. And No, I got to back this up a little bit. They put us in the family shelter because of Alexandria's disability. And we were severely targeted there. I remember nights laying in the bed getting stuff shot up in my nose, liquid, burning the inside of my nose and my head and my eyes and my ears. And the same thing was happening to my daughter. I had no way to protect her. I've never had a way to protect her from this, because these people just do whatever they want to do to you. And they don't care nothing about you, your child, the disability, nothing. It doesn't mean anything to them. Only thing it means to them is, wow, I can commit a crime and get away with it. And it was like an addiction to them. They loved it. We stayed there for a couple more weeks. Went and stayed with somebody all night, trying to get away from the torture. Still running, thinking that eventually I will get away from it. But we couldn't. It was just a figment of my imagination. Thinking the farther I go and the farther I run, the farther I'll get away from it, but it was never going anywhere. It was following me like the plague. Yes. Alex hollered all night there, so we left there the next day. We went back to the shelter. They put us in what they call the woman's shelter this time. They wouldn't let us back in the family shelter. The very first night we were there, we're sitting at the corner table. I was eating and my daughter Alex was eating. And this big lady, we were on benches, and this big lady got right up under me. And she was so close to me, I couldn't even lift my hand to the plate to feed me or my daughter. And she sat there and she called me every name in the book. And at that time, the fight in me did not know. I didn't know. I wasn't paying attention to how far these people could go. How far society would let these people go. I picked my plate up full of food and I threw it right in her face. Jumped over the bench and started punching her in the face, because I thought that that's something I needed to do, because I felt like I was in a penitentiary and I needed to fight for my respect. Well, I lost my respect. 2 days later, everybody and their mommy turned against us. We were getting tortured in that place, and I'm sitting on beds side to side, about 30 beds in one room. And I'm sitting on the bed and I'm hearing them talk about, if you do it, they're going to help you. But they didn't want to do it because they said, but she's a nice lady. But they ended up doing it because that's how they talk you into it. They talk you into doing stuff because you need the help. We were in that hotel for about another 2 weeks. This time we were going into November. A lady came to me at the shelter on the grounds at Cass, and she told me, she says, we need to get you and that baby out of here. And I looked at her because I thought she was a blessing to us. And I said, God finally sent me an angel, because I didn't know which way to go. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I was doing. I just know I needed to do something. And we moved into an efficiency hotel. We stayed in it all of December, all of January, and we moved the 1st of March. The address that we moved to was our first place here. It was a townhouse. 2 bedrooms upstairs, a full bath upstairs, half a bedroom downstairs, living room, dining room, and kitchen. We thought we had finally got rid of them, because they're not going to find us now. They're not going to find us here. We escaped. We ran. And we succeeded. That was the lie I made myself believe. Again. before we moved in there, they had that place set up. They had that place set up to the point where I could hear them in the roof. But I didn't know what to call this. I was still calling them serial stalkers. I didn't know what to call them. Well, this is part 1 of me and Alex's story, part 4. Got to break it in half. More coming. Subscribe and like.